Chapter 11, Section 2, Islamic Empires, the Spread of Islam. When Muhammad died, his followers chose his successor. He was called a caliph, which means successor to the messenger of God. The first caliph was Muhammad's father-in-law, Abu Bakr. The first four caliphs ruled from Medina and were called the rightly guided caliphs. That is because they tried to follow in Muhammad's footsteps. They lived simply, treated others fairly, and also fought hard for Islam. They wanted to spread Allah's message to everyone. Under their rule, the empire expanded to include all of Southwest Asia. Expansion continued under the Umayyad caliphs, who ruled from AD 661 to AD 750. They made their capital the city of Damascus in Syria. Now the Arab Empire included North Africa, Spain, and some of India. The Muslims built an empire. Just 100 years after Muhammad's death, the Islamic State became a great empire. Why were the Arabs so successful? Arabs had always been good on horseback and good with the sword, but as Muslims, they also were inspired by their religion. They were fighting to spread Islam. Muslims believed anyone who died in battle for Islam would go to paradise. The Arabs were also successful because they let conquered people practice their own religion. They called Christians and Jews people of the book, meaning these people too believed in one God and had holy writings. Muslims did not treat everyone equally, though. Non-Muslims had to pay a special tax. When people are conquered, they tend to adopt the religion and customs of their new rulers. In the Arab Empire, many people became Muslims and learned Arabic. The customs of the conquered countries also influenced the Arabic rulers. Eventually, the term Arab meant only that a person spoke Arabic, not that he or she was from Arabia. Preaching and training. Muslims also spread Islam by preaching. A group called Sufis spent their time praying and teaching Islam. They won many followers throughout the Arab Empire. Arab merchants also helped to spread Islam. They set up trading posts throughout Southeast Asia and taught Islam to the people there. Today, the country of Indonesia includes more Muslims than any other nation in the world. Some Arab merchants crossed the Sahara to trade with kingdoms in West Africa. In the 1300s, the West African city of Timbuktu became a leading center of Muslim learning. Struggles within Islam. From the moment Muhammad died, Muslims began arguing about who had the right to be caliph. The quarrel over who should succeed Muhammad split the Muslim world into two groups, the Sunnis and the Shiites. This division has remained to the present day. Today, most Muslims are Sunnis. Iran and Iraq have the largest populations of Shiites. How did Islam split? Shiites believe that Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law, should succeed him and that all future caliphs should be Ali's descendants. According to the Shiites, the Umayyad caliphs in Damascus had no right to rule. Sunnis, who outnumbered the Shiites, accepted the Umayyad dynasty as rightful caliphs, though they did not always agree with their policies. Over time, the Shiites and Sunnis developed different religious practices and customs. Who were the Abbasids? The Abbasids were the dynasty that came after the Umayyads. The Umayyads lost power in AD 750 because they angered many Muslims, especially in Persia. Persian Muslims felt that Arab Muslims got special treatment. They got the best jobs and paid fewer taxes. When these Muslims rebelled, people all over the empire joined them. They overthrew the Umayyads and a new dynasty began. The new caliph was a descendant of Muhammad's uncle. His name was Abu al-Abbas. The new Abbasid dynasty lasted until 1258. The Abbasids devoted their energies to trade, scholarship, and the arts. They also built a new capital, Baghdad. Baghdad prospered because it was beside the Tigris and near the Euphrates River. It was a good location to trade, since many people used the rivers to ship goods north and south. As a result, the Arab Empire grew even wealthier. The Abbasid dynasty is also known for bringing Persian influence into the empire. Baghdad was very close to Persia, and the Abbasid rulers came to know and love the art and literature of Persia. The Seljuk Turks. Time brought many changes in the 500 years of the Abbasid rule. In Egypt and Spain, the Muslims wanted their own caliphs. About the same time, a new people, the Seljuk Turks of Central Asia, began moving south into the Arab Empire. The Abbasids were losing control. The Seljuk Turks were nomads and great warriors. When they first moved into the empire, the Abbasids hired them as soldiers. Soon, however, the Seljuk Turks saw how weak the Abbasids were. They decided to take power for themselves. First, the Seljuks took over much of what is now Iran and Turkey. Then, in 1055, they boldly took Baghdad itself. The Seljuks were satisfied to rule only the government and army. They let the Abbasid Caliph remain as the religious leader. The Seljuk ruler called himself Sultan, or holder of power. For 200 more years, the empire continued in this way. The Seljuks ruled, but it was still the Abbasid dynasty. Then, in the 1200s, another people swept into the empire. These were the fierce Mongols of Central Asia. The Mongols were building their own empire and destroying many of the civilizations they conquered. In 1258, they stormed into Baghdad and burned it to the ground. The Arab Empire had ended. Later Muslim empires. The Arabs built and lost the first Muslim empire. Later on, Muslim groups created empires in Asia, Africa, and Europe. One of the largest and most powerful of these empires was the Ottoman Empire that began in Turkey. Another was the Mughal Empire in India. Who were the Ottomans? In the late 1200s, a group of Turks in the northwest center of Asia Minor began to build a new empire. The ruler of these Turks was named Osman, and as a result, these Turks became known as the Ottoman Turks. The Ottomans quickly conquered most of the land and today make up the country of Turkey. They attacked the Byzantine Empire and pushed north into Europe. In 1453, they seized Constantinople, the Byzantine capital. They changed the city's name to Istanbul and made it the center of their empire. Ottoman armies also marched south, conquering Syria, Palestine, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and parts of Arabia and North Africa. They used guns and cannons to fight their battles and built a large army to control the Mediterranean Sea. Like the Seljuks, the Ottomans called their leader a sultan. The most famous sultan was Suleiman I, who ruled in the 1500s. Suleiman was a man of many talents. He was enthusiastic about architecture and built many schools and mosques. Suleiman was also a brilliant general who brought Ottoman armies north into Europe. He even threatened the great European capital of Vienna. For all these reasons, Ottomans called him Suleiman the Magnificent. After his rule, the Ottoman Empire began to weaken. Little by little, they lost territory. The empire finally collapsed at the end of World War I. How were non-Muslims treated? The Ottoman Empire had many different people, including Turks, Arabs, Greeks, Albanians, Armenians, and Slavs. These groups practiced several religions. While many were Muslims, others were Christians or Jews. The government made different laws for non-Muslims. They had to pay a special tax, and in return, they were free to practice their religion. They also could run their own affairs. These groups chose leaders to present their views to the Sultan. However, the Sultan made some demands on the conquered people. For example, Christian families in Eastern Europe had to send their sons to Istanbul. There, the boys became Muslim and trained as soldiers for the Sultan. Who were the Mughals? During the 1500s, the Mughals created another Muslim empire in India. These Muslim warriors came from the mountains north of India. The Mughals used guns, cannons, elephants, and horses to conquer territory. In 1526, they made the city of Delhi the center of their empire. The greatest Mughal ruler was Akbar. He brought peace and order to the part of India he ruled by treating all of his subjects fairly. Most of India's people were Hindu. He allowed them to practice their religion. Both Hindus and Muslims served in Akbar's government. Times were good in India until under Akbar. Farmers and artisans produced more food and goods than the Indians needed. As a result, trade increased. Muslim merchants brought paper, gunpowder, and fine porcelain from China to India. In addition, Muslim architects introduced new building styles, such as the arch and dome, to India. After Akbar, the Mughal Empire began to decline. Later, rulers spent too much money trying to expand the empire and imposed heavy taxes on the people. Others tried to force the Hindus to convert to Islam and banned the building of Hindu temples. These policies led to many rebellions, and parts of the empire broke away. At the same time the Mughals began losing power over their subjects, they had to deal with European merchants. The merchants came to India to trade, but used their military power to take over Mughal territory. Eventually, the Mughal Empire collapsed, and Great Britain took control of most of India.